Welcome to the Black Box App Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Johnson. Extremely excited to be here today with Dr. Joshua Fredenburg. Listen, I've worked with this gentleman through his Circle of Leadership Change Conference experience. I think I've sat on maybe 2 or 3 of those, Joshua, and it's always been an amazing experience. I see you out here helping people. I was going to say youth, but you're just helping people, man. You're all about helping other people, and that's what I appreciate about you. So thank you so very much for joining the Black Box App Podcast, sir.
Yes, no, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here with a legend. See all the great work you're doing, which is incredible, changing lives and creating pathways for emerging leaders as well, and just featuring so many incredible people. So I'm just honored to be a part of the podcast. I mean, you've had some legends on here, so I'm just happy to be a part of the program. So I'm excited. I'm excited, really excited.
Hey, we're working, man, and you're part of the inspiration behind the podcast, because our deal is we would like to showcase individuals that are out here doing amazing work that people might not know about. Now, I've been on some of your platforms, and you have a vast network of influencers and subject matter experts, so people know about you. But for those of us that maybe don't, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, really. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so my name is obviously Dr. Joshua Fredenburg, aka Dr. J. First and foremost, I'm a speaker. So I've been speaking for the past 15 years professionally, primarily in the collegiate market, but I've done some professional organizations as well. My bread and butter is obviously leadership, but that branches out into DEI, retention, resiliency, emotional intelligence. I mean, I talk about a lot of things. 15 years of work, you're going to have a lot of things that you talk about. Also, I'm an author of 7 books. I'm not really a writer. I just write books to help people. That's not my bread and butter. Again, I'm a talker. And then we do this thing called the Circle of Change Leadership Experience, which is really a nonprofit 501c3 organization where we've been doing conferences for the past 12 years that are geared towards helping students, specifically culturally diverse and first generation students, position themselves for career leadership success and to make an impact in the world. So we've been doing this for a very long time, 12 plus years. It literally is a faith walk. Literally the way we've been able to do this 12 years is still absolutely surprising to me. But the fact that we're still here, we're actually bigger and better than we've ever been before, and that people are being impacted is something I'm really excited about. Obviously do ministry as well, and do some television work, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later. And then I have 2 kids. My son, Judah, is 5 years old. My daughter, Rachel, is smarter than me, and she's 13 years old. And then I have a wonderful wife. And so, we're just trying to build. And for me, honestly, Kenneth, is really number one, doing what I feel I'm called to do and really create a legacy for my family and for future generations. So that's just a little bit of snapshot of what I do. And love speaking, love talking.
Hey, look, I was going to say that's not a little bit at all. That's a whole bunch of stuff right there. Look, I know when we first connected, I believe it was right before the pandemic. You were going to be at St. John's University out in Queens here in New York with the Circle of Leadership Conference. And you reached out. Of course, I was on board, really excited to come out. You had some big heavy hitters that were going to be there. But more importantly, I thought you had a great format to help the students, particularly diverse students and first generation students. I think that's a great mission to work on. So I was excited about doing that with you. The pandemic put a squash on that, but we did it virtually. And I think it was one of the first virtual conferences that I participated in that fashion. Tell us a little bit about how you managed to pivot.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. Literally, our flagship conference was held in LA. It was the 10-year anniversary. It was phenomenal. And we're getting ready to go to New York for the 2nd year in a row because the New York event was so impactful the first year. I love the feel. I love the difference of being on the East Coast. Our panelists were incredible. And we had a great partnership with St. John's University. And we were getting ready to launch again, despite the rumors of the pandemic. And literally, I believe it was on March 13th, I was on a flight from, I believe it was LA to Miami, and literally got the word that we had to cancel the entire event. It just shocked me. At the time, I really didn't know what to do. And what's really funny is I had this individual reach out to me about this virtual reality avatar kind of program, and it inspired me to think about virtually. I never used that program, but it inspired me. And I was having a conversation with the president of our board, and I was like, you know what? We should just go virtual. We have the capacity to do it. I'm already speaking virtual. And we just launched out Thankfully, as a speaker, I had to make the transition first as a speaker and learn how to speak virtually. So through that process, I was able to learn a lot of things leading up to the conference, which enabled us to really put on a really successful conference within such a short amount of span. And now we've done 3 to 4. So we've got better, like we have this thing down like clockwork now and have all the equipment and stuff like that. So it's pretty simplistic now. But back then it was stress, but the team came together. We were okay with failing. We were okay with making mistakes and really just having a growth mindset. How can we get better? You never stop growing. I love what LeBron James says. He says, strive for greatness. And so we're always trying to figure out how can we get better? How can we get better? How can we get better? And going virtual, honestly, Kenneth, not only enabled us to reach more people, but we actually were in a better financial position because of it. We saved a lot of money. We have a lot of virtual stuff together now. And so it's just up and onward from here, and enables us to do more because we've learned how to create this virtual experience that provides value to people. And also, I do want to put this in there as well. I think one of the things that helped me was that I come from television. And so when I was 19, in addition to speaking, I wanted to be a talk show host. And so I worked on a variety of productions. I was a production assistant. I produced a television talk show, cable access for like 7 or 10 years. And so I understood production and video and technology. But I never thought that would be instrumental with my speaking career. So I think that helped me a lot as well. But yeah, that's been the journey. And so we're in a great position now. And because of virtual, we're able to launch like 3 or 4 conferences from a virtual standpoint that can provide great value and great quality. And really, the thing that we've learned how to do is to get the energy of the virtual into the house or into the place where people are at. That's been really, really good as well. So, yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
What I want to talk about. But see, that's your unique value proposition, right? When I've attended your events and I've participated as a panelist, the energy has always been so good and positive. And I think that's a direct reflection on you and what you bring to not only a virtual environment, but an in-person, face-to-face environment. So I want you to share something from a job seeker perspective, right? So how do you believe people need to prepare for this virtual world we're in? Like, there's going to be a lot of remote work and a lot of virtual interviews. I don't know if we're going back to the way things used to be. So you speak a lot about, you just spoke about needing to adjust virtually. How does that work, do you believe, for people that are seeking opportunities?
No, that's really good. That's a great question. I think number one, virtual leadership, virtual workforce is different from in person. And that's the biggest thing we have to understand. See, one of the challenges of the transition is people are trying to use what they use in person to virtually, when in reality, there are 2 different dynamics: the way you communicate, the way you lead, the way you speak, the way you connect with people. Everything is different. And so I think number one is people becoming aware of the differences. So now, for instance, when you're speaking, I think number one is being aware of technology. One of the things that I never really thought about, I think about now, is your Wi-Fi. Is your Wi-Fi up to par? Another big thing is your technology. So like when I'm doing, if I'm doing an interview or I'm getting ready to go on an interview, I can use my computer camera, but if there's a way where I could, put a little money towards a better picture or even a camera, that's going to let me look better. That's going to let me sound better. And that makes a big, big difference. Then just learning how to connect with people virtually. There's no more, I guess they used to call it the water cooler conversation. You can't do that no more, right? You got to figure out, how can I still keep the relationship? How can I still build the relationship? And I just think people embracing virtual teams. A lot of people are scared and they're like, I don't want to do it. I want to get back to normal. But we had a session. This lady said something that was so powerful. Dr. Corey C. Miller. She said, there is no going back. It's what are we pushing toward? Like, everyone wants this thing, let's get back to normal. Let's get back to normal. Quite frankly, normal wasn't good for everybody, right? Like, people didn't like how it was back then. So how can we push forward? And really, how can we use this to be more effective as far as recruitment and even as far as DEI work? And so I think really just embracing technology, really training ourselves, really learn about the different things that we can do, being okay with mistakes. And one of the things that I thought about, Kenneth, honestly, and I'm still always thinking about this, is how can I make it better? How can I make it more engaging to my audience? How can I make it better where people want to connect? How can it be more valuable? You know, one of the great things about virtual now, and like even today, I was able to do 2 keynote presentations, 2 keynotes in 2 different locations. I wasn't able to do that. Now as a recruiter, if I'm looking to recruit, I don't just have to go to one career fair. I can go to a variety of different places to recruit. This gives me the ability, for instance, on a college campus, when they're having meetings, virtual meetings, can I pop in just to see, just to talk, to engage? It just changes the whole dynamic, because one of the things that I think is so important from a recruitment standpoint, especially the diversity standpoint, you know, there's no diverse candidates out there. You know, you hear this over and over again. Well, that's absolutely not correct. There are so many places where there is exceptional talent that you can connect with virtually. You don't got to leave your office. And so I think it's an enhancement to what's already being done.
Yeah, you know, that's a big piece of it. And I also believe that we've ventured into a space where individuals can look at opportunities outside of their normal geographic location and not really take the necessary hit with saying, look, I'm not going to move to Iowa. Well, you might not have to. You might just have to go to Iowa for a meeting every month, but you can live in LA and work that job. And I think that the opportunity not only to reach different talent pools, but also to present to different candidate groups is extremely important in the world of recruitment, especially from a DEI lens. So I'm in 100% agreement. You know, so you spoke about how the virtual side of the way we're going to work, the future of work, makes it a little different. But what I want to talk about, I do want to go back a little. You are one of the people that I've spoken to that has made a career pivot, and you've been extremely successful in that. But it sounds like it's part of the alignment anyway, but you were working just on the other side of it and didn't know that it was going to fall into play again. So tell us a little bit about your career journey, please.
Yeah, so when I was in college, ultimately I wanted to be a basketball player. I always share this story. My dream was very simple. I was going to be on the Los Angeles Lakers. Don't hate on me. And I was going to be a basketball player and then become a national broadcaster. That was my trajectory. That's where I was headed. Unfortunately, in college, I got cut from the basketball team by one player, by the way. Could have went to a community college, but I love Long Beach State University so much I decided I wanted to stay. And at that point, it was a pivot because I had a communications class. And I discovered I had a gift to talk. I never thought about speaking. I didn't want to think about being a speaker. That was the last year. I was all about playing basketball. That was my whole thing. That's where I was headed. Discovered I had a gift at about 21 years of age, was giving my first presentation. 50% of people start bawling in tears. And at that point, I wanted to be a speaker and a talk show host. And so the trajectory.
Hold on. What was this presentation about that you had everybody crying?
It was about success. It was simple about success. Just how do you become successful? It was a ministry, a campus ministry, and how do you become successful in life? How do you overcome challenges? It was really simplistic, but people was crying. So, I don't know. It was good for me because it really opened my eyes to that epiphany of what I was supposed to do.
Well, you were the only person. You were the only person in the room whose eyes were open. Everybody else was crying.
Exactly. So we had an epiphany moment collectively. Exactly. I never thought about it like that. Yeah. So our eyes were open, and from that point on, I was set. So I started interning. I interned for BET, the Tavis Smiley Show. I worked on Teen Summit. I interned for the Ananda Lewis Show. I interned for the 2000. Well, I actually got paid for this, production assistant for the 2000 presidential elections when it was in Los Angeles, California. When I entered at the Ananda Lewis Show, now you got to understand, I was doing my college talk show, my cable access talk show, but I was also interning because I knew I got to get into the business. I got to get into this thing so I could understand. Again, I want to be a talk show host. And then I was at the Ananda Lewis Show. I had one class I had to finish. I decided to leave. Believe it or not, that was the year of 9/11. So I don't know what to think about that, but I just happened to go back to LA. And so from there, I went on to work for the Grammys. I worked for a lot of pilots. And then I worked for The View. I worked for an Oprah Winfrey special. And then I got to work on the Wayne Brady Show. And with the Wayne Brady Show, the PA, just, doing everything that the PA does. American Idol was right across. So I'm doing TV. I literally wrote my first book while I was working on the show. I'm still doing my cable access show. I'm still working on my speech. So I'm doing all this stuff on the side while I'm working there. And then I just got to a point, I was like, you know what? This is not for me. I saw the celebrity. It just wasn't fulfilling. Like I wasn't excited about being a producer of a TV show. To be honest with you, I know no love Wayne Brady, but just to be honest, I was bored doing the show. It was boring. And so I was like, I gotta shift it. I gotta do what I'm called to do. I gotta be a speaker. I gotta be a talk show host. And so that moving on, I went to substitute teach. So I was a substitute teacher literally for 4 years. So while I'm subbing, I'm on the side building my speaking business. I know you got to
substitute teacher in the LA Public School District?
LA Unified School District. Yes, Ken, I see every single school. So when you talk about schools and you talk about, how there's differences, yes, honestly, this again, no shit. I don't know if I should be on, I'm gonna be honest. There were certain schools I felt so bad because I felt like they were setting kids up to fail.
Wow.
You would go to, it was amazing. I saw every school. I saw it all. For 4 to 5 years.
I'm sure.
I saw it all. Yeah, but I did it because of the flexibility. And this is good for entrepreneurs. It was the flexibility. You work from 8 to 3, you get off work. During school, I'm a sub, so I really don't have to teach the full time, so it's a little different. So I just learned how to manage my time, and I'm building my business up. And I had to take a test. Believe this, I had to take a test. And I just I'm not worried about the test. They always give you these tests. I just brushed it off, probably wasn't smart. And literally they said, you're fired. I said, what? They said, you're fired because you're supposed to take the test. So I'm fired. And at this time, my speaking is building up. And I'm like, oh, okay, what are we going to do?
Right.
And it was before summer. And so as a speaker, my busiest time is from August to about April. So this is like a dry season. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to pay the bills. I mean, obviously, because sub would maintain while I'm building my business. And I had bad debt coming out of college. So my debt, so I was literally like, I'm coming from nothing, right? I'm just coming from nothing, trying to navigate. And I never forget, I said, okay, I got 3 months. I've been doing this for 5 years part-time. I can make it work in 3 months. I just need some money to get me through the summer. Sure. And this is what's crazy. This is like the craziest story. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to get money from. And I realized I had a retirement. Believe this or not, I had about 10K saved in retirement through LAUSD. I pulled the whole retirement out. The retirement got me from June to August. I started getting speaking engagements. And from that point on, I've been traveling the country as a speaker ever since. And literally it was like that zone. And so from there, I've just been speaking. I've done TV appearances, but speaking's been my bread and butter. And then Circle of Change evolved in 2010. And so that took a little bit more time. And so I just been on this journey. Stopped doing my TV show just because I didn't have the time, the capacity. And I just felt like one day when this time is right, that's going to appear for me. But there's some other things I had to focus on now. And quite frankly, I'm glad I did step away because it was a political show. And so with cancel culture, it's probably not the best thing for me. Honestly, being a speaker, and that just would have been the great thing for me because it's just not good. So I'm kind of glad I stopped doing it because we talked about real stuff. It was hardcore politics issues. So there was no gray area. It was the real, it was the conversations you having.
What was the name of the show?
It was called Speak On It.
Okay.
It was called Speak On It. So we spoke. We talked about everything. We talked about all kinds of different stuff. People shared their views. I had everyone. I had the Republicans, the Democrats, the Independents, some people that just want to, I had one guy, he was a longshoreman. I would always bring him back because he would always say something that offended. It was funny. People get offended. This guy, he did not. We did a live remote and I had a pastor on the panel one time. He offended the people so much. The church was ready to say something to him. And he was actually a preacher on this public accent. But so he didn't care. And then I had my good friend, one of my best friends, Frank Oliver. I used to call him the Al Sharpton of our generation. And he was a great communicator. He always had that insight. And it was going to have one guy, I call him a Republican, like to this day, a really good guy too. really good guy. We just didn't agree on certain things. I'm an independent, just FYI, root for me. But we just didn't agree on certain things. But he was to the core. But he was a really good. Honestly, to say all Republicans are not good, I don't agree with that. This guy was. Literally, if he was younger, I would let him date my daughter. He was that values, ethics. I just didn't agree with his philosophies on certain things. But he was a really courteous person. I like to use the word. He had civility. He really exemplified that really good. But yeah, it was awesome. But I knew I transitioned and been speaking ever since. And haven't looked back, man. Haven't looked back, and just trying to just loving it, just loving it. There's so much more of the journey, but that was, that was how I got to where I am now. Just in a quick synopsis.
Yeah, I think, when I did the Circle of Leadership, both times that well, maybe it might be 2 or 3 times that I've participated, but I've always been amazed at who's to my left and my right as a panelist. Like, I'm in the little box on Zoom, and I'm like, so prime example, what I want him on the show too. You had the gentleman from ESPN that produces the Jalen and Jacoby show. You and him go way back. Yeah. Can't remember his name.
Demetrius Harris.
Demetrius Harris, yes. So you had So I was next to Demetrius, and then I think the person on the other side of me was like a meditation therapist from Hawaii. I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah, so I'm like, this guy knows everybody. So I love that about you. But when I look over your shoulder at that board, and I'm seeing all these schools that I'm assuming you have an affiliation with right now with One College Nation. Share with me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this program originated out of a conversation. Let's start with a conversation. So this past year, I had reached out to someone that worked at the University of Tampa, and they were looking for a DEI speaker. Now, the problem with this particular school is she said, if you're just a DEI speaker, that doesn't go over with my students. It's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to put her on blast, so I'll stay away from that. Okay. Basically, it had to be interactive. It had to be very, 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 and very surface level as it relates to DEI, but she wanted to just to try to introduce. And so as we're talking, I get this idea. So I got an idea. I got this idea. What about a DEI program that is more of a conversation, a live DJ, a party atmosphere where people are connecting, building community, also learn about different aspects of DEI that can begin that process for students. So she's like, oh, I love it. And so we do this program at the University of Tampa. And at that moment, when we thought about it, I said, this is not being done in the college market. No one has been able to incorporate icebreakers, DJ, party, fun, but yet having critical conversations about DE&I. So I called up my friend Tish Norman. And so ultimately we came up with this concept, One College Nation. And so ultimately we launched that program at the University of Tampa. She did a couple of campuses as well. And so now we're going to 2022, where now we have our background, we have our t-shirts, we have our videos, and we're just going to continue to move the program forward because it's been so impactful for first year students. Because a lot of times on college campuses, you'll go to schools and honestly people will walk around people they've never seen ever in their life. And there's just a lot of that goes on, this whole notion. Although Gen Z and millennials are the most diverse, the whole colorblind, that's a whole other conversation. These are still issues that need to be educated with college students at a young age. But sometimes we have to bring them into it, make it fun, but also give the great points. And that's how this has been launched. And it's been very welcoming by colleges that we've been able to work with because, again, it's an introduction. And as you know, DEI has so many layers and so many different levels. And I think what makes effective DEI work is being able to understand the level in which you're working and building people where they need to go. And so this has been a program that's been a part of that and helping to get students involved, helping them understand that we need to appreciate our differences, that we need to create an inclusive culture. We got to be inclusive leaders. We got to step out our comfort zone. We got to celebrate people, appreciate people, love people, be curious learners, be aware of microaggressions, unconscious biases. And so that's what we're able to incorporate in this program. And it's been going really, really good. So it's another launch off of the branches.
I love it. You're speaking about, assisting and building people to where they need to go. But what I'm hearing a lot of in your conversation is that you're also meeting people where they're at and just getting an understanding of who they are and then supporting them as they grow towards becoming better people. And I think that's really important at the student level. It looks like you're doing great work across the country, apparently. I'm just looking at the One College Nation map, and I'm loving it. We need to share another conversation because I think there's some synergies around the Black Box app and some of the work you're doing. So I think we'll share another conversation. Speaking of the Black Box app, this is the Black Box app podcast, and it's powered by East Coast executives. But I just wanted to ask you, as you kind of looked through the app or just actually even kind of just took in the conversation. Why do you believe it's a valuable resource to Black men currently?
Wow, there's a lot to talk about that. I think number one, a resource for Black men is important. You know, so many times we talk about so many different, so many different types of people, right? But I think one of the people we rarely talk about that we need to do more of is Black men. I mean, if you think about the challenges that Black men face in this nation, when you just think about the issues on television, when you think about civil rights, right? It always starts with Black men. The whole George Floyd began with a Black man, you know what I'm saying? And I think we don't take enough time to understand, like, as a Black man, to see another Black man on television to go through that. I'm not knocking no one else, because again, I believe in helping all people.
Sure.
But imagine if you see someone that looks like you on television and the video that was going on. I mean, that's huge. And that doesn't go into all the other challenges where people are intimidated of Black. I can go on and on and on and on of the challenges that a Black man faces on a daily basis. And so when I see programs like this and apps like this that are supporting the Black man, that are encouraging the Black man, that are strengthening the Black man, it's amazing, because we need more examples. We need more visibility of influential and powerful Black men, because I don't want to say they're not out. They are out there. There are a lot of influential, powerful, and amazing Black men. So I don't even like to say we're looking for, no, we need to put them on platforms and give them more of a voice. Because I've discovered, man, not only do Black men bring something to our communities, our nation, or our world, but again, if you look throughout history, the Black man has been a prophetic voice. The Black man has been a courageous leader. The Black man has overcame so many different challenges. The Black man has done so much, not only for our nation, but for our families, our communities, and our world. And so a program specified at Black men is so powerful to me. Resources, mentorship, coaching, connection, incredible interviews, incredible things such as this. I mean, it's just powerful to me. And honestly, I think it's so needed today. You know, when you look at the family households, me, myself included, I came from a divorced household, and a lot of, Black men are being, unfortunately, in years past, the absence of fathers. Now, again, there's a lot of strong Black fathers out there too. So I don't want to give into that kind of thing. But again, just that example. And, one of the things that I appreciate, Kenneth, is my son is starting karate. And I'm really, I don't know, it's jitsu. I don't know, it's jitsu karate, and it's here in Miami Gardens. But what I really loved about it, and I'm just going to be real, it was run by 3 Black men. And they're teaching discipline, they're teaching focus. They're saying if you don't do good in school, you're not going to be able to come. And when my wife tells me, I'm here for this, I'm here for this. Because I know the power of that, I know the visualization of that. And so I just think that's what this represents. It's so much. And it's so needed. And I think everyone needs to be on board, and everyone needs to support, because it really, really, really matters, especially nowadays. And quite frankly, and I don't know, I may get in trouble for this, but again, we talk about DEI work. I think sometimes we leave out the Black man, to be very honest. Yeah, I think sometimes we forget about the Black man. And I know people don't like to hear that, but it's just a reality. True. Are we doing enough for Black men? That's what I want to know.
It's interesting, and wow, this is probably the second time I've spoke about this on this podcast, but I had a conversation through Black Enterprise, and it was titled Neither Privileged Nor Protected, the Black Man in Corporate America. And we had some great speakers. I think Bill Hawthorne, Corey Anthony. Bill, formerly with Macy's, has his own consulting firm now. Corey's with AT&T, but that was the conversation, right? Because both of them have high-level DEI roles under their belt, but just speaking about kind of some of the nuances to making sure that Black men are included in the conversation. And truly what you're speaking is very much aligned with what they were talking about in that conversation. It's in the Black Box app. You can check that out. It might be under the professional development tab, but either way it goes, it's the Black Enterprise Modern Man conversation with myself, Corey Anthony, and Bill Hawthorne. So please check that out. So Dr. J, all right. Yeah. So listen, I want to talk about something else, and I think it's something that you probably need to share with us. I see you come out for these conferences, man. You're dancing, you got the street flare on, you're doing it all, getting the energy hyped up. Now, you just mentioned you were a PA for the Wayne Brady show. Was that part of your jobs at some of the places that you were like the person to get the crowd like excited and fired up as well?
You know what's funny about that? I never had an opportunity to do that. I actually want to be a warm-up guy. That's so funny you said that. I always felt that would be good for me. In the office, they always wanted me to talk and do the presentations because I had all that energy, but I never did the warm. I always wanted to do that. I always thought about that. I did appear on the Wayne Brady show, though. I actually did get on the show, and
Really?
on the Wayne Brady show, they would always have a person in the audience and they would introduce themselves. So I got my book published and I was on the Wayne Brady show and I said, Wayne, I had this whole thing going on and welcome Wayne Brady, had an interview. But it's so funny you said that because, I thought about that. I really thought, I wish I would have pursued that, but.
Let's go back to the author title. And I'm jumping all over the place, but it's just because I enjoyed speaking with you so much. When I first looked at it in your LinkedIn profile, I thought you had a book that was titled 7 Books. But no, you have 7 books. I'm like, when does this guy sleep?
I didn't think about that.
I was like, when does this guy sleep? Because I really thought it was a book titled 7 Books. I'm like, you know what? That's an interesting title. It's probably a book with 7 stories within it. And he's speaking about kind of his career. I'm giving you a great book idea right here. And
I'll tell you, I'm listening.
But so tell me about this journey to, I know you say you're not an author, you're a speaker, but you got 7 books.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, this is a real conversation. This is another one of my testimonies, right? This is crazy, kid, right? So I had this idea of a book called Vision, the Answer Generations X and Y. Don't encourage anyone to read the book. It's my first book. It's probably my worst. But I met this woman and I said, I have this book, but I'm not trying to write 100 pages. And the woman said something that has changed my life. And it's one of the reasons I've been able to write 7 books. She said, write 1 page a day. That was simple. I'm like, I can write 1 page a day. So my gift is, and I have this gift of putting things together. Like I have this gift of presentation. Like I can create. That's part of one of my gifts, right? So I had the book idea and I just started doing 1 page per day. Now, what's so powerful about the book is what a lot of people don't know is when I came from high school to college, I had to take a remedial English class because my writing wasn't up to par. I actually had a professor tell me, your writing is not good enough for you to get a master's degree, let alone a doctoral degree. So I was always challenged as a writer ever since I was in college. Okay. And so when I wrote my first book, it really just defied all odds because here we go, a person that number one had to take a remedial English class, was told by the professor, you're not good enough to write at a master's or doctoral level, just all this negativity, but I'm able to write this book. I just continue to write books because I continue to get ideas. And then I learned something really valuable, probably at my 4th book. I learned that I can hire a copy editor. So that just changed the game, right? So I just write it. They make me sound good. I got the graphic design. And so I just started having the books. And so really it just comes back to really just writing 1 page per day. And again, as a speaker, I write because it's a part of what I have to do in order to enhance my business, but it's not really something I'm not passionate about sitting down writing. I just like to get ideas out there. But again, if you can write 1 page a day, and if you can find a good copy editor and a good person to do your graphics, you can publish a book self-publish wise. When we get into the major levels, that gets a little bit more political, and there's a lot more to go into that. That's a whole other conversation for another day. And one reason I never really stepped into that was because I'm a speaker, so I can actually just go places and sell books. And also for me, in being an author, it's really something just to enhance my program. So like my newest book is called Red Leadership, How to Retain, Engage, and Develop More Culturally Diverse Leaders of the Emerging Generation. This came out of...
I see what you did there. Retain, engage, and develop. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, I got it. I'm following you.
Yeah. And so I got this idea, and it just came out of my dissertation. And what's interesting about the book is now I'm realizing the Great Resignation. Companies are don't know what to do, and literally. Everything I was researching is a part of the solution. I don't want to say it's all the solution, but it's definitely a part of the solution. And there's definitely some adjustments in the book that I learned from a research standpoint that can make a huge difference. But again, for the book, it wasn't just about the book. It was about creating a topic that I can talk about and provide training, consulting, and expertise as a speaker based on the knowledge that I developed. So writing this book taught me a lot. Like I'm going to throw a gem out there real quick. I'm gonna throw a gem out there real quick. So this is a gem. So we researched about 900 culturally diverse millennials and Gen Zs, right? From across the country. One of the questions I asked them, I said, what is the number one reason you would stay at a company for 1 to 3 years? And the number one reason was not leadership, it was not culture, it was passion alignment. And this was powerful to me, right? Because a lot of people, when they talk about retention, I have rarely heard them talk about altruistic or passion alignment. As a matter of fact, most recruiters will never ask this question. I've rarely heard a recruiter ask. Let me say that. Now, there may be some out there, so I don't want to say that because there's a lot of brilliant people out there.
And I don't ask that question. I don't really connect that dot. I read through it sometimes through the the hiring documents or the LinkedIn profile, and I can kind of get an understanding of what somebody's kind of passionate about or what work it is that they enjoy doing. But I don't necessarily ask the question. You're right.
Yeah, so it's a question, what is your passion? What drives you? Then here's the next question. Why are you passionate about working for this organization? And then you begin to create a job around that passion. Not to say the work is always going to be the passion, because an ERG group can give that passion, volunteering can give that passion, going to conferences can give that passion. Everyone has multiple reasons why they get a job. Maybe they just want to make that money. That's understandable, but there's multiple reasons why. So if I can get you in line with your passion, there's a good chance I'm going to increase retention. I'm going to increase engagement. You're going to give me 110%, and you're probably going to want to be a leader at some point, because most people that are passionate about things, they want to lead, they want to have a voice, they want to get involved. Now, again, that's just part of it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're underpaying someone and they come with that money, this much more, I don't care how bad, I'm out. So I just want to make that very clear. It's a part of the process. Because again, if you're underpaying someone, people got a problem with that, and they're going somewhere else to get
and all things being equal passion. Yeah.
Exactly. That's good. There you go. Yeah. So I definitely think that's important. But again, it's the passion. We never really asked that question. I never got that question asked. And I never had someone, when I had a job, put me in a position where it's in line with my passion. I mean, who gets tired of their passion? I mean, Kenneth, you do this, the black box, because this is your passion. You're going the extra mile. It's a Friday afternoon at 4. Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but it's a Friday afternoon on the East Coast. And here you are, so that passion drives you.
So listen, speaking of that, I'm gonna I don't want to hold you too long because it is a Friday afternoon, but you and I, when we could do this all day, we'd be here tomorrow running through things. But I think that's something. I think you got another book, the 1 page per day. That's the book right there. That's beautiful. Listen, do me a big favor, man. Please let our audience know how they can stay connected with you and just follow your work.
Yeah, I think the number one way is on LinkedIn. I mean, that's how I met Kenneth. So I think number one, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I do Instagram and Facebook, but LinkedIn is really the great place for business relationships. As far as my website, for the college market, it's visionxy.com. That's where you'll learn about my work with college students. For corporate, joshuafredenburg.com. And then Circle the Change, leadershipexperience.com as well. And so we have some other things coming down the pipe really soon as well. So love to reach out, especially recruiters. I think I have some stuff for recruiters that I believe is going to be very beneficial as well. So yeah, those are ways to get in contact with me. Again, it's first and foremost, I love to talk. But also love to connect great people with each other and really find great people to empower our students. So Kenneth, when you said influential speakers, I'm really meticulous about that. Yes. So, like our conference in November, we have like 80 speakers, and I'm still over that because I'm very, very meticulous about the people that I have talked to the students, because I really think about them, like who would they want to listen to? Who would they want to hear from? One guy I had 3 years ago, he was a former president of UPS in Southern California. And one of the things he said very clearly, he said, honestly, some of these students would never get a meeting with me unless they came in Circle the Change. And that matters to me. That's true for a lot of executives. And I want to just say this, I got to say it because I just feel inspired now. I want to tell executives out there that may be in C-suites, maybe senior vice presidents, maybe CFOs or CEOs, give back to the state colleges and the community colleges. And I don't know if this is, I hope I'm okay with this, Kenneth, but I think so many times we'll go to the Ivy League schools or the elite schools, but I really believe that in our state schools, in our community colleges. They need your voice as well. And I know you're very busy, but I just want to encourage you to give back, because there's so much talent and there's so much impact that can happen when people see people like them in positions of power. So I just wanted to share that. I felt inspired to share that, but I feel so strongly about that.
Man, I really appreciate it. It's Dr. J, Dr. Joshua Fredenburg, a person that I really consider a friend. I love the work you're doing. I really appreciate you visiting the Black Box Hat podcast. And I'm honestly looking forward. I want you to commit to coming back on again. I just think you have so much to share.
Oh, anytime. Yes, absolutely. Anytime. I'm all in. I'm all in for sure. Anytime.